If you want a build that makes you unstoppable in pretty much every type of content in New World Aeternum, this is the build for you. It's an absolutely disgusting monster. I'm talking Demon King's level of unkillability, while still doing more damage than half your DPS group combined. We're going from poverty to power. Step by step, I'm going to show you how to build this thing from scratch all the way to best in slot. If you play this right, you can solo dungeons, melt elite zones like your own personal playground, and turn every boss fight into a complete joke. People are going to be on their knees giving you that eye, begging you to play with them, because it's the strongest solo build I have ever played, and it slaps in PvP too. But why does this work so well? Easy. Heavy armor stacked with lifesteal. Every single hit lands like a freight train on fire. With one swing, your health bar shoots all the way back up from 0 to 100 like a roller coaster. You're a walking raid boss. You're walking over it to every fight like a tank dripped in honey, because everything that sticks to you will die. And if you want to tweak it, stick around to the end. I have alternated gear setups, PvP tips and tricks, and a few spicy bonus tips that will make this even better. So without further ado, let's start off with your poverty build. And hey, if you're already into this kind of madness, smash that like button and subscribe, or New World is going to disable OPR again. Alright, let's dive straight into that early game build, the poverty setup that will carry you through the mid game survival. First priority, Enchanted War. Why? Because it's just broken. It negates 4% damage, which is massive. It's a lifesaver, and you'll be thanking me later. Think of it as a tiny personal shield, cutting down damage from almost everything, since nearly every attack in the game is coded to do lights and heavies for both PvE and PvP. The 4% stacks insanely fast and keeps you alive way longer. It's like an extra cup of coffee in the morning. You just feel like you can take on anything. If you don't already have one, hit the trade post and search for gear with Enchanted Ward. You can filter by armor types and gear score to find the best deals. If the market's drier than the desert, don't worry. Head back over to the faction vendor. It has your back. Be ready to drop 1k gold per piece, so about 5,000 gold in total. Yeah, it's rough. We're not Jeff Bezos, but hey, at least you won't be dying every 2 seconds, but you might have to live under the bridge in Windswood in a cardboard box. So why heavy? Simple. Survival. You soak up damage like a sponge, basically become unkillable. Now, for our weapons, the Greatsword is a must. This thing is an absolute beast killing machine, and this is non-negotiable. In Defiant stance, you block and heavy simultaneously, turning you into a damage dealing juggernaut. Here is the Greatsword tree. We'll break it down later. For your offhand, it's personal. Hammer, SNS, or spear, pick your poison. It's the holy trinity of offhands. I'm a spear fan, so I'm giving you the best spear perks and what to run with. This is my spear tree. Let's head over to attributes. For attributes here, start with 100 con and push all the way up to 200 depending on the zone that you're in. This is your difficulty slider. The better gear and skills, the less you will need more constitution. For solo PvE, 100 con is the baseline. Then I will go to at least 150 strength to boost stamina regen, which increases survivability. I like to go dex all the way up when I'm doing the spear, simply because dex primarily scales off dexterity, not strength. Weapon perks for your greatsword. It is an absolute must to have trenchant recoveries in the early game. Healing for 21% of the damage you deal by heavy melee attacks is crucial for your early game survivability, and without this, you'll become a floor tank faster than your DPS. So make sure you grab trenchant recoveries. Look for this on the market, or you can farm a sword. For your offhand, way less important. I like just putting Leeching Cycle in here to give me a bit of extra healing in those tough situations. Plus, it's very good in PvP. Your Heart Rune, Stone Heartward form, which comes from Lazarus, or Detonate, which comes from a need. For your jewelry, Divines is a must. Boosting your healing by 10% synergizes perfectly with the Lifesteal Ring, Leeching Lifesteal. And for our earring here, I recommend just looking for Refreshing Toast, as it gives you 10% better cooldown on your potions, giving you a huge amount of survivability. But just go for whatever is most affordable at this point, as earrings and jewelry in general are just very easy to farm. This is your poverty build, cheap, efficient, and strong enough to carry you through those early game dungeons, elite zones, and get a taste a bit of PvP. Next up, how to farm the named items take you from fresh grunt to level 50 raid boss. We're going to start cooking like Gordon Ramsay. Now we're talking mid-tier power spike. Frigid Dawn. Farm this ASAP. It's the best in slot gear for many builds, heavy, medium, and even some light builds. Frigid Dawn, if you open up your map, will drop from the mutated dungeon, Glacial Tarn. It's a frozen tundra, just like my hometown, Canada, and it's time to dig for gold. Why is it so cracked? It has an illegal perk combination, elemental aversion plus enchanted ward. Don't worry, you won't be going to jail. You can upgrade it to 700 gear scored and pick the third perk, which is great for a mid-game build, as this will definitely carry you into the late game. Your first artifact, you finally got your first artifact, Void Darkplate, increases your armor by 20%. Plus it comes with enchanted ward, so it's very good at tanking. This will give you a huge boost in survivability while versing physical damage. Where do you grab this? BB, it has to be mutated. That's in Cutlass Keys, by the way, for all you rookies out there, right here. Next up, at this point, you can look to farm the Crescent Wave Greatsword. You put a gem slot on this best in slot. You grab this on the Season Pass. You need to be level 20, and I have a complete guide down in the description below to level up your Season Pass as fast as possible, so make sure to hit that. I got your back, brothers. For your spear, I recommend farming Corrupted Progenitor Spear. This is best in slot for PvP, not for PvE, but it's very easy to farm, especially solo. Where do you grab him? Well, you want to come over here to Shattered Mountain and kill this boss over and over again. He's very easy. I could kill this guy with my eyes closed as he hits like a live wet noodle, so no need to worry. Yes, farming Corrupted Progenitor took my sanity. It took me like 50 tries. Heart Rune, level it up, no changes yet. Next, let's head over to our Life Ring Amulet. It comes with Divines and Health, PvE and PvE Godsend, drops from Tortor Riven in Eden Grove. This is non-soulable. For the solo one, you can farm Pit Lord in Shattered Mountain. Don't worry, this guy might make you faint from the smell of his armpits, but that's okay. Just bring a gas mask and you should be fine. He'll spawn around in this zone. Next up, Ring. I recommend just holding off for Blood Drinker at this point, as this is the bread and butter of any solo tank build. This comes from Starstone Mutation and is a must-have. Now, Woodgrain Earring, this is best in slot for both PvP and PvE, medium and heavy builds alike. It comes with Fortifying Toast, Refreshing Toast, and Regenerating. Lots of extra survivability packed into one. It's like a Happy Meal. The second you get this, you feel like a kid again. Where do you grab it? Open up your map, come over to Eden Grove, and you want to farm it right here. There'll be a guy that looks like he's on the roids, but don't worry, he hits like a wet noodle. He ain't too much of a threat. Now, at this point, you should have enough money in the bank to start grabbing a few consumables. Let me go over that. I recommend first grabbing common honing stones. These are much, much cheaper than powerful honing stones, and you only lose 2% damage. This should be your main source of empowerment. Now, after that, you have ward potions and coatings. Down by 15% to enemies. This will be humans, ancients, lost. Depending on the coating type, make sure you have the correct one for the correct job. And ward potions. This will increase your damage absorption by 10% for 40 minutes, making you an unkillable god ×2. Next up, make sure you bring your mana potions if you're running Crescent Wave, and just some basic health potions, as this will jump our health bar from 0 to hero just in case we make a mistake. This wraps up our mid-tier guide. We'll finalize this up with full perks, full 725 gear, and the best PvP setup we can lock in. Now we got our mid-game build completed. Getting to 725 gear is much, much trickier. So before I get into that, I'm going to show you the best perks now to put on your armor and what to prioritize. First, put Soul Heart Alternator on your primary chest piece. Look this up on the market. This comes with Vital Synergy. While held below 50%, you gain 15% stamina recovery rate, and while below 50% stamina, you get 15% more incoming healing. This is the biggest power spike you will ever get. This perk is completely broken. I'm surprised New World hasn't shattered into pieces from how the dev teams handle their balance. Next up, make sure you grab a chunk of Crystallized Azoth. This will give you lifesteal on each hit. It has a 1-second cooldown, but whenever you kill a mob, you get about 7% of your max health back. Put this on your gear anywhere. These are both perks that are best in slot for PvP and PvE, so no matter where you're going, you want these. Now, at this point, you want to look to start putting Shirking Heals on your gear if you're PvP focused. This, when you dodge, you get extra healing. Super valuable. In terms of PvE, at this point, you want to start collecting conditioning. This is why PvE tanks are so hard to get best in slot, as depending on the dungeon or zone you're going into, you will need different conditionings. That's why Frigid Dawn is pretty much best in slot even at the endgame level, as the only way to get better gear is to now have conditioning on top of Enchanted Ward with the weapon perk or health. This is when your build starts to become insanely expensive, and if you're not going to be going incredibly hard, the mid tier is a good stopping point. Now for weapon perks, it's very simple. You just want to put the perks on for your spear if you're choosing spear. Enfeebling Skewer, huge. Put this on your weapon if you're running it as a tank, as this reduces the enemy that you hit by 50% of their damage for 6 seconds. This is beyond disgusting. Imagine if you're fighting someone, your damage gets cut in half. Yeah, I would uninstall too. Next up, make sure you bring in Fortifying Peppering Strikes. This is really good for PvP and PvE as well. This gives you an insane amount of fortification, increasing your tankiness by an insane amount as it stacks up to 3 times. Don't sleep on this. This should go on your armor. If you want to switch up, I recommend for Hammer getting these 2 perks right here, as these are insanely good for tanking. Endgame tanking build, by the way, is Greatsword Hammer in my opinion. It's just generally best in slot unless you're doing Worm. Worm is a whole different type of tank that will take in a whole nother video. But now we know exactly what to get for our gear. And where to get the 7.2 Vive version? Well, there is a few different ways. You can farm Worm, which is insanely hard to get into, but this is where generally the best gear in the game will be. Otherwise, Hive a Gorgon farming here, or we can head over here to the Wishing Well. Now, once you travel over to Cutlass Keys, we'll be right here on the map. Head over to your Well of Fortune, or I like to call it the Wishing Well. You can buy a gold key here, get free doubloons, by the way. Don't know how to get doubloons. Very solid option. You can grab 710 weapons here. Very good for early on if you have a bit of extra doubloons to spare. But what I would recommend doing is buying some chests here, depending on which part of your build needs the most improvement. Now, this is like gambling, so you will have to roll the numbers, and the odds are you're not going to get very good gear. But I'll tell you a quick tip to improve those odds. In this game, there's loot bias. So whatever gear I'm wearing, heavy, medium, or light, when I open up a crate or get a random drop that's not named or an artifact, it will drop more than likely to that gear piece. Also, whatever your highest stat is as well. So since I have highest dex, if I were to open up a box, the odds are it would be a dex piece that is heavy. Same with weapons. Now, what is the best greatsword for PvEing? I recommend grabbing the Serenity. This is simply because you get the extra 45, making you way more tanky while in Defiant stance, and you don't have to worry about the mana problems that Crescent Wave have. Now, Serenity is way harder to grab, so it's like banging your head against the wall and trying to get this. So I would just stop at Crescent Wave and deal with the bad mana problems. As long as you're having your food, your potions, you should be a-okay. Now, where to get the best spear in the game? Well, the best spear comes from Worm, in my opinion. It's called the Doomboard Stinger. I actually got it. I'm so lucky. But sadly, I'm PvP, and Enfeebling Skewer is just not as good leeching Cyclone in PvP. But this is the best PvE spear you can grab in the entire game, so I highly recommend farming Worm if you can get in there. Good luck. I'm rooting for you. Once you get Blood Drinker, I recommend upgrading it to the slash damage since we're mainly slash. And a lot of builds I like to run our slash, but you can definitely choose something else if you're feeling frisky. Hardy is the other best perk to have in the entire game, but luckily the Blood Drinker does come with that. If you don't want to run Blood Drinker, make sure it has Hardy and Leeching no matter what, and choose your third perk wisely. Wood Grain, we've already went over that, best in slot still. Your amulet, at this point, you should be collecting amulets that have protection perks on them, like Pokemon cards. You should have every protection amulet possible. This will help you through every type of content, whether that be open world, dungeons, or even raids. Never destroy a protection amulet, no matter what, even if it's lower gear score. Gear score does not really matter once it's 700 or above. It's much more, 10 times more important to have perks than it is to have high gear score past 700. You'll be thanking me later. And if you haven't hit that sub button, what are you guys doing? I'm giving you some of the best content in New World. This time, if you don't hit that like button and subscribe, I can promise you they're going to be disabling your mutated dungeons next. I've already covered consumables that you'll need to have. Let's go over gems, the final part of the build. Gems are very dependent, once again, depending on what you're doing. If I'm doing PvP, I like 6 opal, 2 onyxes split. If I'm doing open world PvE content, you want to be rocking all onyxes. If you're doing dungeons that are mutated, all opals or the respective resistance. So if I'm doing a frost dungeon, you want to have aquamarines. I'll show you exactly what I mean here. So open up Mutated Expeditions, you can click into Garden of Genesis, and up here at the top, it'll tell you what the enemies will be doing as their primary damage. Here, this week it's Frost, so you want to make sure you have a Frozen Amulet and Aqua Gems in all your armor. This will give you so much extra tankiness in Mutated Dungeons. Even if you're a DPS when full light, you'll become an unkillable god, so imagine us with this build. This is how you can solo Mutated Dungeons with this build. For Worm and Gorgon, Jaspers are generally your best option, as that is primarily strike damage. There is a few situations where you might want to switch out your gems for certain bosses, but that's a whole nother guide waiting to happen. I want to run this in PvP. What do I switch up? Well, in PvP, I would drop preferring strikes and run sweep instead, as the sweep CC is much more valuable. This is much more useful in PvE in my opinion than PvP. Also, don't run hammer greatsword in PvP, that is a non-existent combo. Instead, I would either run spear or SNS, both of these will work very well. Here would be my PvP tree. If you're looking to do some spicy action, this is pretty much exactly what you should be running in every PvP. Now for a shield, quick bonus tip, there is a bunch of stuff on the shield. I recommend the 5% damage reduction. You can get Enchanted Ward, always prioritize that. And as you can clearly see, this also gets a protection perk. Yes, that does stack with our amulet here. So make sure you grab a tower shield that has a protection perk on it, as this will once again drastically improve your survivability in PvP and PvE if you're choosing to use sword and shield as your secondary tank option. Your heart runes stay the same across the board. Sadly in New World, there just ain't enough variety here. Comment down below what you think they should do to heart runes in terms of buffs or changes, because it feels very stagnant as the same heart runes have been meta for what feels like an eternity. For PvP, I do think Crescent Wave is 100% better than Serenity is right now. I'm going to give you now the hard breakdown of my Greatsword tree. So I like to run Roaring Rupture, as this gives you cleanses 2 debuffs, huge, and it applies a shockwave. Steadfast Strike here, also great, gives you cooldown reduction when you hit the second part of it, and it's great at taunting. Relentless Rush, a great movement ability as it lets you get from place to place. Plus, while going from Defiant stance into Onslaught stance, this thing heals you for a megaton, 15% of its damage, max 5 targets, 0 to full on its own. Do not sleep on this. Plus, the last thing, the Defiance tree here, massive. Heal for 5% of the damage from attacks, but while blocking an attack, you heal for 15% of the damage instead. Yes, that does mean while I'm heavying in Defiant stance, like right there, I would get that 15% additional healing. Pair that with Blood Drinker, leeching on top, get Divines, and you're just healing your entire health bar per hit. This allows me to solo any type of content I want in the entire game, except M3s, Hive, and Worm. This is an absolute killer machine, and if you want to be the least group reliant build in the entire game, I highly recommend putting this bad boy together. Sadly, getting 725 is extremely hard, like I mentioned, so I would just stick on your Frigid Dawn pieces and put the gear together, as it's much more attainable, much more versatile, it's much easier to acquire. But if you want to go for that true 725 best in slot gear, then go for it. Once again, Hive, Worm, or the trade post got you covered. Now I promised you a more in-depth guide on the spear, so here we go. Cyclone, why do I love this? Because it gives me 25 stamina per hit, times 2 is 50 stamina. This gives you an insanely fast stam regen, allowing you to block quicker on your Greatsword. Combine that with the Skewer Weaken with the perk, insane amount of survivability. Then when you enter and perforates Rend, and this increases to 10% per target, above 50%. And then you hit a Weaken to the enemy, not only will it be weakened by 50% from Skewer, 30% from Perforate, you also rend them. Spear has a lot of debuffs and a lot of good utility. I just want to cover once again why I prefer Sweep. It's just faster and the CC is more viable. I do think Perforate is definitely good in PvP, but I just found more success with Sweep. If you want my PvP build, there'll be a link down in the description below. Make sure to check that out. On top of that, this perk right here, Evasive Maneuver, is very important. You can dodge an attack, consume 20 less stamina after you hit somebody. This is huge for stam management, and learning how to master this is the key to becoming a good spear player. You can also get increased stam regen after a critical hit, really allowing spear to be the way you get your stamina back up to switch back to the Greatsword and start hitting those big heavies. A quick tip on how to get more doubloons is to X up in chat for the doubloon run. You'll come to this way shrine and they'll run you through this whole area. This will give you an insane amount of doubloons, allowing you to quickly go into the Well of Fortune and start really leveling up. The chest from that key I mentioned earlier will be located right here. You just want to go right here on the map. There'll be a chest here. Pick that up. 500 free doubloons, big gains. And now, the final and arguably the most important tip. Everyone asks me about my drip. How do I get this good looking chest piece? Okay, I'ma spill it, boys. You open up your map and you gotta do soul trials, okay? Doing these soul trials will unlock my gear here, the Monarch's gear as it's called, as I know a lot of people have been asking for this in the comments. So here you guys go. Here is the way to get my chest piece. And if you guys did enjoy this video, chuckled a little bit, or learned something new, please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, as it really does help the algorithm, and I just love your charity. I'm a needy man. What can I say? With that, hope you guys all have a fantastic day.